Hi, my name is Jeremy Johnson, and this is Fail Fast, Learn Fast, Move Fast, my UX journey to move faster. Again, my name is Jeremy Johnson. You can find out more about me on Jeremy Johnson online or follow me on Twitter at Jeremy Johnson. The hashtag for this conference is DDSum12, and we'll be talking a lot about Lean UX, so that's a good hashtag to use. I've been lucky here in the DFW area. I've been able to work for a lot of really large fun, interesting brands. My cloud score is 62, so there's that. And I wanted to spend a second talking about what I feel UX means to me, because I think it's a term that means many different things to many different people. As a UX designer, or as UX designers, we make things for people. We care about people. We want them to be able to use our products and enjoy them. But we also make things for businesses. We're not artists, and so we realize that there needs to be a business model and there needs to be business reasons behind many of the designs that we create. We also like to work in ecosystems, and we want to have say in whole systems instead of just a single part. We think visually. You'll see us sketching on whiteboards and doodling on paper quite often. We usually learn through observation, be it in a usability lab, in a Starbucks, or watching people use a product that we might be designing the next version of. And we're just curious in general. Many times we ask why, and of course we also quite often ask why not. And I think this process is the same, whether you're building software or you're building tennis shoes, video games, phones, whatever you're building in general. I think this is what the UX practice means. So let me get a sense here. How many people in the audience here are involved in user experience in one form or fashion? Okay. Now, if you're in a agency or consultant, raise your hand. Okay. And if you're in a startup, okay. And how about in a large organization? Okay. I've been in a large organization for quite some time, but I've had many friends who work for startups, and obviously many of us in large organizations want our companies to work more like startups. And in fact, if you're in a startup, there's a great book called The Lean Startup, which has kind of become the Bible for startups building new products. And the idea behind the Lean Startup is it's a core component of Lean Startup methodology is the build, measure, learn, feedback loop. So you're going to hear that again and again and again, build, measure, learn, feedback. And things we can pull from that as UX practitioners are things like MVP, minimal viable product, or some people call it minimal valuable product, so keeping things simple, experiment via iterative prototyping and rapid prototyping, valuing customer feedback, so making sure we're in front of customers and hearing from them in various different ways, and shipping, launching and learning. Now, if you're in an agency, you're kind of in a unique position because really making deliverables is your job. People pay you to see things. Usually they want pretty things, and a lot of times you're actually not building the thing. You are just telling someone else what they should be building, or maybe you're making some smaller or kind of microsite or marketing campaign. If you're a consultant, usually you're dropped into the company and kind of expected to work how the company works, and so that could be a good or a bad thing, depending on how that company operates. If it's an agile company, then you'll probably want to dive in using Lean UX. If it's a more traditional waterfall type company, you'll be creating deliverables. As I mentioned, most of my experience is around large organizations. And actually, there's a great book called Inspired, How to Create Products Customers Love by Marty Kagan that actually talks about how to improve your product process inside large organizations. When I was originally labeling this presentation, I was going to call it How I Learned to Stop Worrying About Being in a Large Organization and Move Faster. Because building software is hard. It's not coal mine hard, of course, which I remind myself, but there are many problems in software development today, and we're going to talk about how we can fix some of those. So if you are in a large organization, a lot of times UX groups are actually kind of pulled to the side of product development, to where maybe you're and there's this kind of wall in between you and either the business group, the marketing group, or the development organization. And I've been in this situation, and you'll hear things like, "Well, the team's too small, and it must be shared. The team doesn't work directly with development for whatever various reasons." Team doesn't work directly with product business for also various reasons. And so that's a big problem, right? And that's something that needs to be fixed. And so you'll hear a lot of things around selling UX. So let's talk about, or let me ask, how many people here in the audience believe they have true user experience buy-in at the C level? Okay, not very many. So I'm actually lucky. I'm in a company where I believe we have true UX buy-in at the C level, and obviously you can point to companies like Google and Apple, and now with Yahoo, where you'll hear CEOs talk about that. And there's lots of articles about it, and that's a whole nother presentation. But what I always say, always be evangelizing UX in your organizations, make people aware, and show people the value. So the next problem is something around embracing lean UX and agile. So there's an upcoming book called Lean UX, and it's also something that's become very, very popular in the UX movement. Means just slightly different things. So rather than focus on artifacts, we focus on prototypes and validating those prototypes in discovery, with the added benefit that the prototype serves as a spec for delivery. So in that case, documentation equals bad, rough, quick, iterative prototype equals good. Or another way to say that is getting closer, quicker to the actual experience. And there are many different articles on the web about this as well. So just Google Lean UX, more than enough, but it's basically around prototyping, validating the prototype quickly, and repeating. So if you do have this wall in your organization, that needs to be broken down. And really, I believe to move fast, UX needs to be in the product development process with business and development working as a team. Now I have an interesting challenge because I actually lead a group of designers, and so this is a little bit different, where most of the members of my team are actually in one of these product groups. So they're in checkout or shopping or homepage or SEO, SEM or mobile. And actually a lot of people have been writing about some UX groups or managers are just not comfortable with that. So no longer does the manager dole out specific work to each person on the team. Instead, the designer's daily agenda is driven by the prioritized backlog of the Scrum team. I'm actually embracing it and learning more about it, and I have actually enjoyed it. And in fact, I'm working on my MBWA. No, not these guys. It's the management by walking around. And yes, that is a real thing. But this isn't new. Like 2008, talking about bringing Agile and UX together. So UX designers are part of the customer or product owner team. Totally agree with that. Cultivate a user validation group for use for continuous user validation. Schedule continuous user research. Use right to iterate UI before development. Prototype in low fidelity. Treat the prototype as specifications. So this is all stuff that I believe in and that I think works to our benefit. But just in general, walls make things slow. So break down walls where you can. And just so I've mentioned Agile a couple times, and just because that's sometimes a hot topic, it's funny when you talk about Agile, there are hundreds of ways to describe it. But I think one commonality between Agile and Lean UX, which is different from normal UX practices, would be everyone is involved. So the idea is that you're really embracing UX across the culture. You're bringing in and working hand in hand with the business owner, and you're actually involving them. So instead of going back to a cave and designing something for 2 weeks, you're there on the ground with the team doing your UX work. But in general, I think Agile is definitely better than Waterfall. I think it does show value faster. Agile can work well with UX, I've seen it, but Agile doesn't make better software, as some developers would lead you to believe, because of course we're making things for people, and well, really, people don't really care what kind of process you use. What they really care about is that you've provided them something that's valuable, usable, and enjoyable. So in a lot of these new methodologies, business is kind of in charge of finding that value. So what truly are our customers looking for, where UX is in charge of making sure it's usable, extremely easy to use, extremely easy to get through. And of course, I do believe it needs to be enjoyable as well. And I think that's something that business and UX can work together to create. So UX and business needs to work together as a team, and you need to determine value, you need to create the experience, and you need to repeat that process. And who knows where that's going to take you? It's really not a straight line anymore. You never know when something's going to change or move, or as it's said, pivot. So how does this work? Bill Scott's currently out at PayPal, and he's actually trying to initiate a lot of these types of changes there. And he just wrote recently, "We gathered all of our designers, our product folk, and our engineers and took over a few conference room and began to operate like a startup." So that's a key thing you'll hear again and again. Design was done on the whiteboards and coded in real time. Usability tests were weekly, so the pace was fast and furious. But we were able to try dozens of experiences across desktop, tablet, and mobile in the time that it would have taken years at PayPal before. To build, test, learn became our mantra. And you'll hear that again and again as well. Build, test, learn, build, test, learn. So really there's, I think, 3 books I think if you read you would get and enjoy. Which would be Inspired, The Lean Startup, and there's a book called Prototype It, which also talks about making sure you're building the correct thing before actually building it while it's still cheap. And here's some of the problems that I've noticed. Can't get started. So Seth Godin actually has a book called The Truth About Shipping, and in there he says, it's that little voice in the back of your head, the but or the what if, that speaks up at a crucial moment and defeats the joy and insights you brought to the project in the first place. He also goes on to say, ship often, ship lousy stuff, but ship constantly. Another problem would be spending too much time planning. You find it hard to strip out what's not valuable, or you don't talk with your customers. Jason Fried at 37 Signals talks about the longer it takes to develop, the less likely it is to launch. And he actually calls planning is guessing. So you have the most information when you're doing something, not before you've done it. Yet when do you write a plan? Usually before you've even begun. Problems around large teams. So keep your team small, smaller than that. No team at all if you can help it. A throwback to their days with Jeff Bezos at Amazon. Projects are assigned to 2 pizza teams, groups of engineers small enough for them to be fed on 2 large pizzas. We want the team to be flat and allow everyone to communicate with each other. In fact, Spotify recently just kind of talked about how they are working like a startup, even though they actually have a fairly large application or set of applications and have been scaling over time. But they actually break up their application into different parts and then create small teams around those parts so they can still act like a startup even though they're turning it into a large organization. Maybe you only launch a very few number of times a year. Maybe you're trying to jam too much into a product, or maybe you're looking for perfection. This is a photo from Mark Zuckerberg's desk. Stay focused and keep shipping. And he says great companies focus on their users and ship great products. And that kind of spawned, I think, a series of posters. Move fast and break things. Stay focused and keep shipping. Get excited and make things. Fail fast and try again. Steve Jobs says, real artists ship. Another problem is it's going to cost too much to try that out, or how do we know our customers will want this? There's also in the methodology it talks about what I like here, the Instagram founder calls the Wizard Oz technique for social prototyping, where they said they tested an early version of a feature which would notify you when friends joined the service. So instead of actually building it out, they manually sent people notifications like a human bot saying your friend has joined. It turned out not to be useful, and so they wrote 0 lines of code, and so they had to throw away 0 lines of code. So these are just some of the issues around software development. Again, these books are great. I would explore it, learn more. I think as a UX practitioner, these are not UX specific books per se, but this is where UX is heading. And there's lots of different conferences about this now, and there's workshops, there's different way to break it up, and some people are taking it and making slightly tweaking it and changing it slightly for them. But what's great is no matter what, UX is an integral part of product development in all of these books and all these methodologies. And so here's where I saw speed when this all came to me. So Product Team 101, there needs to be a core team. You need to have a product owner, a UX designer, and a dev. All 3 need to be involved. No, really, all 3 need to be involved full time. So it's 1 product owner, 1 UX, and 1 dev. And what's actually really good about that is when someone says, well, how large should your UX team be? Well, how many product teams do we have? So if you have 5 product teams, guess what? You should have 5 UX designers. The product owner. So the product owner is the boss. And I think this is a little different as well. I think a lot of time we have maybe a little like a push and pull kind of relationship with product owners or marketing owners. In a true product organization, the product owner is the boss. Where he is the boss, as maybe like the president, you are like the vice president. So you're very important, but not as important. Why? Why is she the boss? Well, because she will get fired if whatever the product is doesn't work well. He or she needs to meet numbers, and you should help them at all costs to do so. As you should take the core team, the product owner, the UX designer, and the dev, and you should be generating ideas, and you should be putting these ideas into an idea or a discovery backlog. Lots of ideas, lots of things you want to try out, lots of things that you think will add value to your product. Some people call this a discovery track. So the discovery track is all about quickly generating validated product backlog items, and the delivery track is all about generating releasable software. So this is not something that's ready to be released. This is something that you've now vetted and it's ready to be built. And so the idea is you take your backlog and you would pull some ideas off it you want to test out, and sometimes it could literally be a board, and this is very popular in Agile and Scrum situations. And then you're going to prototype, and the idea is it's going to be fast, it's rough, and you're going to move, and you're just going to keep moving. So here we are in the lab testing a rough mobile prototype. It was an HTML. Kind of a very simple flat HTML prototype to get some kind of key features tested out. There are many ways, if you don't know HTML, to build low or high fidelity prototypes, fairly inexpensive. We usually have what we'll call testing Fridays, where we'll bring 6 people into the lab and pull some things off the backlog and have a prototype ready for them. And this is us here in the lab. And really during these sessions we're trying to determine a couple things. So yes, of course, is it usable as a baseline, but is it valuable? Do they actually want the feature or care about the feature? And is it enjoyable? Did they like using it? Is it something that they found value in that they would share with their friends? And so then you have this kind of mix. So off the backlog, you had some ideas you love, some you wanted to kill, some you hated, but that's decided by the core team. So what we do is at the end of the day, we actually usually have a bunch of post-it notes on the board from the screens we were testing. We talk it over, we make decisions, and boom, we're done in one day. It's collaborative. The product manager, designer, and lead engineers are working together side by side to create and validate backlog items. And so you have some ideas that you straight up killed, and maybe that's because it failed usability horribly. Maybe the customer failed to understand what it was even trying to do in the first place, or maybe they just didn't like it, or they didn't have any value in it. Some ideas, maybe the idea was good, the people liked the idea, but the way it was implemented was poor, so you're going to want to refine that and retest it. And then you have ideas that you loved and worked well and the customers loved and found value in, that you're going to want to ship over and get it ready for development. And so you're going to have a series of ideas that you kill, and that's actually a positive. You want a kill rate. Not all your ideas are good. You should have bad ideas. And then some ideas are ready to go. You should ship it. And so did I mention this happens all within a week or less? And that's the fast part. No, really. So the idea is you have this discovery backlog with your team. You're constantly putting things into rough prototypes. You're constantly bringing in customers. You're constantly testing them. And as soon as they're ready to go, you send them over to development to get built. And pretty soon you'll see all the prototypes that you have, all the good ideas, quickly building up and piling up, and the amount of time it would have taken to spec out a detailed wireframe for a waterfall project, you'll have much more. You'll have many more good ideas. They'll be tested and vetted by customers, and development teams will love the prototypes. So I think some of the keys to unlocking would be combined product teams. That's key. You need to have a combined product team or this doesn't work. You need to have one full UX designer per team, no sharing. This rough, fast, iterative prototyping, kind of moving quickly and getting these ideas in front of customers. Getting in front of customers weekly if possible. Some people would even say you should have them in twice a week in some cases. And build, test, learn. As I said all throughout this presentation, it's all about building, testing, and learning. So I think in no time at all, you too can be a lean, agile, prototyping, shipping, UX design master. And worthy enough of the lean startup guru himself. So thank you very much. This slide is available on slideshare.net/Jeremy. And feel free to catch me after in the halls and to talk more. I appreciate it. Thank you.